Welcome to the Licit Elite, a lecture series to Indian Contract Act. Today we shall be discussing offer or proposal. Proposal in the Indian Contract Act is used in the same sense as offer is used in English law. Section 2A of the Indian Contract Act says that when one person signifies to another his willingness to do or abstain from doing anything with a view of obtaining the assent of that other person either to such act or abstinence, he is said to make a proposal. To form an agreement, there must be at least two elements. One offer and the other acceptance. Thus, offer is the foundation of any agreement, without which there cannot be any agreement. The person who makes an offer is called an offerer or a promiser, and the person to whom the offer is made is called the offeree or a promisee. For example, if Mr. A says to Mr. B, "Will you purchase my car for rupees 1 lakh?" In this case, A is making an offer to B. So here A is the offerer and B is the offeree. Now we shall discuss the essentials of a proposal. First, there must be two parties. One who makes the offer and the other to whom the offer is made. Second, the offer must be communicated to the offeree. The term signifies, which is given under the Section 2A of the Indian Contract Act, implies clearly that a proposal must be communicated. Third, the offer must show the willingness of the offerer or the promiser. The offer must be made with a view to obtaining the assent of the offeree. Assent is unilateral and consent is bilateral. This is the main difference between the two. I'll explain with an example. That for example, if A says to B, "Will you buy my watch for rupees 5,000? And B agrees, then here assent of A plus the assent of B becomes the consent of both, which then becomes a contract. So when one party makes the wish, that is the assent, and when both the parties agree to the same, that is the consent. So as we were discussing, the offer must be made with a view to obtaining the assent of the offeree. So a statement made jokingly does not amount to an offer. Every statement which signifies willingness is not a proposal. It should be with the view of obtaining the assent of the other. So if the object of the statement is to obtain the assent of the other, it's a proposal. And if not, then the statement is not a proposal. I'll explain with a case which is Harvey versus Facey, which is also known as Bumper Hall pen case. Bumper Hall pen was a property in Jamaica, and Harvey sent a message to Facey, "Will you sell us Bumper Hall pen? Telegraph lowest price." To which Facey replied that the lowest price of Bumper Hall pen is £900. Harvey replied, "We agree to buy Bumper Hall pen at £900 as you asked." So here it was held that merely quoting the price is not a proposal. Similarly, in an example where A writes a letter to B that "I want to sell my house for rupees 1 lakh. It's not a proposal, even though A signifies his willingness to sell the house. But if A writes to B that "I want to sell my house for rupees 1 lakh, will you buy?" This statement is a proposal because it aims to receive an assent of B. So broadly, an analogy can be deducted that proposal, which is given in Section 2A of the Indian Contract Act, plus acceptance, which is given in Section 2B of the Indian Contract Act, equals promise. Similarly, promise along with consideration becomes agreement. Then agreement along with section 10 of the Indian Contract Act becomes a contract. So we can say that proposal at the end becomes contract. Will become more clear as we will move forward in the lecture series. Fifth essential is an offer may involve a positive act or abstinence by the offeree. The willingness is to do or to abstain from doing something. This shows that an agreement can be for a positive act or a negative act. For example, I run a school and I hire X as a teacher for 2 years in my school. So an agreement can be made that X won't teach in any other school for those 2 years. Now we shall discuss the rules of proposal. Proposal is merely a statement and it has no value unless it is accepted. So therefore, every proposal does not become a promise. If a proposal is not accepted, then there will be no promise and hence there will be no contract. So like for example, A says to B, I want to sell my car for 5 lakhs. Will you buy? B do not accept it. Then that proposal does not become a promise. Second, the offer must be certain, definite, and not vague, ambiguous, and uncertain. So, for example, if A offered to sell B 100 tons of oil, the offer is uncertain as there is nothing to show what kind of oil is intended to be sold. Similarly, if A has 10 watches and A says to B, buy my watch, but he does not say which watch, then the offer is uncertain and thus it will not become a promise, thereby not becoming a contract. Third, the offer must be capable of creating a legal relationship. A social invitation is not creating a legal relationship. So for example, if A invited B to a dinner and B accepted the invitation, it is a mere social invitation and A will not be liable if he fails to provide dinner to B. So domestic agreements, like for example, if a husband promises to wife to take her to dinner, or a father promises to son to buy him balloons, or social agreements, for example, if people enter into an agreement to invite others on breakfast, are not contract because none of them has the intention to create a legal relationship or to follow a legal consequence between them. Fourth, proposal is in form of a request and not in form of an order. So for example, A makes a proposal to B to sell a car with a condition that if you do not reply within 10 days, I will suppose you have accepted the proposal. And so when 10 days expired and B did not reply, there cannot be said any acceptance by B as B is not bound to reply. A cannot give the order to reply within 10 days. Proposer cannot impose an obligation to reply. Fifth, proposal once rejected cannot be accepted. It comes to an end. So for example, if A makes a proposal to B, will you buy my TV for ₹1,000? And B refuses this proposal. But after few hours, he changes his mind and now he wants to buy A's TV. He cannot do so because the proposal ended when he refused to accept the same earlier. So if now either A or B wants to have a contract, one of them will have to make a fresh proposal and the other will have to accept it. Sixth, the offer must be communicated to the offeree. The offer is completed only when it has been communicated to the offeree. Until the offer is communicated, it cannot be accepted. The proposal must be within the knowledge of the other person to whom the proposal is made. This can be explained by the case of Lalman Shukla versus Kauridat. In this case, A's nephew had run away from his home. So he sent his servant to trace the missing nephew. When his servant had left, A then announced that anybody who discovered the missing boy would be given the reward of rupees 500. The servant discovered the missing boy without knowing the reward. When the servant came to know about the reward, he brought an action against A to recover the reward, but his action failed. It was held that the servant was not entitled to the reward because he did not know about the offer when he discovered the missing boy. So he had no knowledge of the proposal when he found the missing boy. Lastly, the offer may be expressed or implied. An offer which is expressed by words, written or spoken, is called an express offer. The offer which is expressed by conduct is called an implied offer. The same is provided under Section 9 of the Indian Contract Act. So, for example, if A says to B, "Will you buy my watch for rupees 500?" So, here is an express proposal. But in the case where a public bus arrives and you board it, here the proposal can be said to be implied. With this, we have come to an end of this lecture, and in the next lecture, we shall discuss the various types of offer. So stay tuned and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.